Many historical accounts frame B.R. Ambedkar primarily as a civil rights leader. These narratives focus on his early efforts to secure basic dignity for untouchables, such as the right to draw water from public tanks. These efforts to secure equal access to Hindu religious spaces culminated in 1930 with the Kalaram Temple entry movement in Nashik. However, the movement faced intense opposition. Upper caste Hindus used physical force and legal challenges to ensure untouchables remained excluded from the inner sanctums. By 1935, Ambedkar reached a turning point. He ended the temple entry movements and publicly declared his intention to leave Hinduism entirely. He concluded that winning a place inside a religious institution would not change a system built to subordinate Dalits. Liberation required a direct challenge to the system's foundation rather than its religious ceremonies. This shift was rooted in the realization that caste prejudice was the visible face of a deeper economic engine. Ambedkar identified two interconnected pillars sustaining this order: Brahmanism and capitalism. In this framework, caste is a social hierarchy, but also a modality for extracting labor. To dismantle these pillars, the focus of the struggle moved from the temple gates to the rural and urban systems of production. His new strategy aimed to unite those marginalized by caste with those exploited by class, bringing together untouchables and multi-caste workers. He began a two-front struggle, one against the feudal landlords in the countryside and another against the industrial capitalists in the cities. In the countryside, the Mahar Watan system served as the primary engine of dependency. This village model shows the ruling landowners in the center, while the untouchables are restricted to the periphery as a subject race. Under the Baluta system, untouchables were required to perform 52 different unpaid duties for the village elite, ranging from messenger work to carcass removal. The only compensation for this labor was a meager grain allowance, a sub-subsistence payment that made it impossible for these workers to accumulate any capital or improve their conditions. Parallel to this was the Koti system in the Konkan region. Kot landlords acted as local rulers, extracting revenue and labor from multi-caste tenants. Ambedkar identified these systems as a charter of social slavery. They were not merely traditional customs, but calculated methods for maintaining total economic control. Starved of opportunity in the villages, thousands of peasants migrated into Bombay's industrial core, seeking work in the growing textile and manufacturing sectors. Yet even in the city, the caste system persisted. Untouchable workers were barred from the more lucrative weaving departments, forcing them into lower-paying, unskilled roles. In 1936, Ambedkar founded the Independent Labour Party, or ILP. This was his first political attempt to bind the interests of caste and class into a single organization. The party's socialist manifesto called for the state ownership of industry, a minimum wage, and legal protections for agricultural tenants. The ILP's first major action occurred in 1938, when 25,000 peasants marched on the Bombay Council Hall to demand the end of the Koti landlord system. The success of the march indicated that shared economic exploitation could bind disparate castes into a single political front. Later in 1938, the Congress-led government introduced the Industrial Disputes Bill. This law favored business interests by making most strikes illegal and conciliation compulsory. Ambedkar termed the bill a Black Act. He argued that by criminalizing strikes, the government was stripping workers of their primary tool for defending their freedom and dignity. He joined forces with Marxist and communist leaders to coordinate a general strike across the Bombay presidency. On November 7, 1938, 100,000 workers gathered at Kamgar Maidan. The city came to a standstill as municipal sweepers and textile mill workers refused to work. The general strike paralyzed the city, showing that Ambedkar's platform could unify municipal sweepers and textile mill hands under a single banner of labor rights. Street protests and strikes offered a way to mobilize the masses, but Ambedkar knew that a lasting movement required permanent institutions. He built an organizational ecosystem. In 1942, he established the All India Scheduled Caste Federation for national political representation. Beneath this lay an ideological base, an independent press. To sustain it, he formed the People's Education Society in 1945 to place Dalits into strategic government positions. This network of media, education, and political parties was designed to create a self-sustaining force capable of challenging the state. In 1956, during the final year of his life, Ambedkar realized that the scheduled caste federation remained too narrow to lead a national movement. He drafted the framework for a new organization, the Republican Party of India, intended to serve as a broad-based alternative to the dominant Congress Party. In an open letter, he detailed the requirements for a healthy democracy, specifically emphasizing that a government cannot function without a formalized opposition. He warned that while democracy was a method for economic change, it would ultimately fail if it did not achieve social equality among its citizens. Ambedkar's work mapped out how the marginalized could dismantle intersecting tyrannies through institutional design. He left behind the structural blueprints required to organize, educate, and defend a democratic state.